Good afternoon, Super Metroid fans. Good afternoon, Speed Gaming fans. We are here. We are live. We are on the air on Speed Gaming Main for this incredible second semifinal in the upper bracket between the number 2 and the number 3 seeds. Boy, howdy, folks. It could not get any closer than this. It's ShinyZeni. It's Oats and Goats. Oats is back from vacation. Zeni's back from his small stepping aside to wait for Oats to get back from his vacation. This is it. This is what we've been waiting for. We got one semifinal yesterday. Ruya came out victorious on top of Zos. We got our second semifinal today, seeing which of these runners will move on to the top final and which will drop down into the second bracket. And here to lead you through the action, my name is Professor School, and I'm joined by none other than the incredible Cutie. Cutie, what's going on? How's it going this morning?
It's going all right. What a better way to spend your Sunday morning than watching some Super Metroid NEs% on the flagship station, twitch.tv/speedgaming. It's going to be a good one, and I couldn't think of a better race to put on the main channel this morning.
Yeah, this is going to be supremely excellent. We've got two top-tier runners here. Zeni just on the cusp, it seems like, for a few weeks here of getting that 40. He's just chomping down those times. He's got some incredible paces going, missed a couple 40s. Ruya, our other finalist right now, also has been just on the brink. But speaking of 40s, we have our world record holder here in this race, 40:36. And one of the very few people in the world to achieve a 40. I think you can probably speak to the sort of skill level that's required as a 41 runner yourself. What does it take to get that 40, low 41 time? I mean, it seemed insurmountable years ago, and now it's the thing that people are regularly talking about, more runners getting into that 40 territory.
I think it takes an immense amount of consistency because, once you get extremely consistent, you can start to get 40s with even bad luck. But until you've gotten that first one, usually you need some luck on your side just to kind of get you over that hump. And if you're not consistent, the luck and the play are just very hard to line up. So I think consistency is really big. I've never actually mapped this out, but kind of the way I think of it is like a 43 is a mistake every third room. Or every, 42 is a mistake like every third room. Or, excuse me, geez. Every third room is like a 43. Every fourth room is a 42, and then every fifth room is like a 41. A mistake every fifth room. A 40, about every 10th room. Just the level of how much detail and how much you need to start shaving off just really starts to get difficult to achieve unless you have a lot of consistency.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it myself as a low 43 runner, and when I actually go back and look over my runs, I feel pretty good about them. And then you actually start to dig in, and it's just what you're saying, right? It's mistake every room, every other room, even a small mistake. That 20-30 frames over several hundred rooms really, really adds up. In fact, I mean, when you see these folks that are cranking out 40s, the consistency is so unbelievable. And that's what we're hoping to see today, right? We're hoping to see solid, consistent play. I mean, obviously 40 would be asking a lot, but I think we're going to see some really good times. I think 41 is absolutely possible. And boy, we hope that the runners are able to get through some of the more RNG difficult parts of these runs. Oh, and there's our audio right on cue. Excellent.
There we go. Yep. And yeah, absolutely. Playing in a race is also just a lot harder than playing at home. Well, obviously the runners are at home, but playing on your own stream and not in a race setting, as much as you can claim that it doesn't really bother you with your nerves any more than being on a PB pace does, it still is there. It's a lot harder to play in a race, especially when you're up against some of the really, really good players here, because you just know that, I made a mistake here, and it's really hard to convince yourself that the other player isn't also making mistakes.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's an interesting point. I'm curious, what is your take on that, Cutie? When you're racing, are you watching the race team? Are you keeping track of sort of where your opponent is in these sort of higher stakes matchups in particular?
Ideally, I'd like to. The big thing is the way with where my setup is, I would see the screen moving out of the corner of my eye and see my screen moving delayed, and I don't like that. So usually what I do personally is I keep it minimized, and then when I have enough time, like say at a bowling or maybe an elevator, I maximize the window and just take a look.
Yeah, I find the same thing. If I have, like, even within OBS, if I don't sort of blank out or, you know, disable my own video, I find it very distracting to see that delay. So I'm like you, I'll have like something very small in the corner that I can cover up and look at occasionally just to spot check, like, okay, where am I at bowling? Where am I entering LN? Do I, you know, should I grab an extra tank at Ridley? Do I have the chance to do that? Those small things that you might see even a 40 or 41 runner do, just depending on the race scenario. I don't think strats will probably adjust that much. I mean, you can correct me, but maybe things like Ridley tank, if you feel like you're ahead and you can do it, if you're very, very low health after Ridley, I think things like that are the most likely to change. But otherwise, I think these runners are probably just going to go ahead and run their normal races here, I would think.
Yeah, you don't want to, unless you've been practicing different strats and stuff, you really don't want to switch them up. It's really weird in that, like, sometimes you might go for an easier strat because it's a race, and then you screw it up because you haven't been practicing it or doing it. So I think we probably won't see too much strat changes necessarily, but we might see some safeties based on where the other player is at, and that is one benefit of it being a 1 versus 1 race here. You can play to your win condition in certain situations. If you've made a lot of mistakes early and you're very far behind, your win condition is now not dying, right?
Right.
As opposed to, like, if it's really close, your win condition is just trying to take some extra risks to push yourself over the edge there. So there's a lot of different ways that you can play with the knowledge of where your opponent is at.
All right, well, checking in on the action for the first time, Zeni coming in with a hot 4:38 bombs time. Oats just about a second and a half behind that. Zeni having just a little bit of an issue with those drops, only picking up 2 missiles to start that fight, and so having to adjust his strats here. Didn't quite get those the waiver drops lined up the way that he wanted to, and that will actually allow Oats to take what I believe is his first full lead here. And himself on a very hot pace, had a nice BT fight, 440 flat bombs, and will be coming in with about a 6:04 elevator touch time. Really, really solid time here for Oats, and Zeni right behind with a 6:06, 6:07.
Yeah, I would never complain in an RTA run about a 6:06. That is, you're cruising. Obviously, you can get your 6:02s and stuff, but a 6:06 is nothing to sneeze at, especially in a race. That's very impressive to see that from both of our runners here.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's really remarkable to me is just how these top-level runners continue to go for those hardest strats. I mean, I'm sure that to someone like you, it's something less to think about, but when I see Zeni and Oats side by side doing the double angle down missiles on that red door entering early supers, that's just so remarkable to me. It's such a level of confidence and consistency, because if you miss one of those missiles, it's a humongous time loss in that room, right? I mean, I don't know. I think that just the ability to go for things like that with total confidence and consistency is really, really one of the remarkable things that gets missed very easily in a run of this caliber.
Yeah, I would agree. I didn't do the double missile for a long time, I think. I think my 4119, so my previous PB didn't even have it. It's definitely one of those where you're trying to squeeze out some frames, and sometimes for a strat like that in the early game, a lot of runners will say, those aren't frames worth necessarily losing my mind over and resetting a bunch from missing them. But that strat is definitely something that once you have committed to doing it and put in the practice, you eventually start to get a really good feel for it. It's just pretty tricky to learn and very frustrating to lose runs to it as you're trying to learn it. So what Zeni is doing here is, in Green Hill Zone, as we call this room, is whenever you enter a room with a hopper, it actually normalizes the RNG and sets it to a specific value. So what he was doing there is he was moving through the room in a specific way and attempting to kill them on specific frames to get a missile drop and a big health there.
Yeah, that's, I think, a generally more recent development compared to some of the other things that you see more consistently now in the top-level any percent runs. Oats having just the slightest of hiccups, but a nice, quick recovery, and just like that, we are almost dead synced coming to this first major check, which is this Powerbomb's touch time, just coming in at 830 flat or just slightly thereunder for both runners. This is just about all you can ask for heading into Moat. Dead even with even resources. Oats taking one extra hit in Green Hill Zone, so a little bit further behind on energy. But oh goodness gracious, this sync is just awesome. Look at this.
Oh, they both ended up going up the left side of the room too. I hate having to go up the left side of the room. If I can avoid it, it just feels really awkward. Yep, so now we're coming up on Moat here, and that's a nice little quick morph from Zeni. You can see the small amount of frames that saves. It's a little tricky. The big risk of that quick morph is it's actually really easy to accidentally go back down the elevator if you're not careful.
Oh, yeah.
I've definitely picked that up, and then like 2 runs later went down the elevator on accident on like a really good pace and said, I'm never doing this again.
Okay, so Oats took a second there to farm a powerbomb off the crabs. Zeni did get the CWJ. Oats needing to go to a second attempt back up, but cleans it up nicely. And just like that, folks, yes, Zeni just took a few seconds lead, his largest lead of the match. However, both runners are across Moat and Ocean into the wrecked ship in under 950, 94x for both runners. This is exactly what we want, right, Cutie? No Moat issues, no silly, 15-second time loss. We are into Phantoon cleanly for both runners. This is awesome.
Yep, absolutely. At any race, even with players of this caliber, it is, sometimes the Moat just has your number. And the one thing that you definitely want to avoid is falling in that right side there.
Mhm.
If you back it up quickly with like a quick backup CWJ, it's not terrible, but it's the one thing you want to avoid in a race, especially from a viewer experience with runners of this caliber. So, it's off to a very good start here for both players. I'm sure Oats is maybe a little frustrated at that Moat hiccup, but he didn't let it get to him, and he was able to recover very quickly.
Oh, I'm not sure from the stream lag, did Zeni actually get the second set of missiles in, plus struggling with that first Doppler?
To me, it looked like 1 and then 2.
Yeah, I think so.
2. Yeah, Oats is in a scary health situation. This is what I like to call the no man's land health-wise, where you are, where 1 hit, you're like 2 hits from death, right? And
right.
But 1 hit doesn't put you in health bomb, so you're just like not guaranteed to get health drops. And there's an enrage.
Oh no, he must have been a missile off. Gosh, it looked like we had exactly identical kill times on the screen. And Oats just 1 missile short. Boy, the Dopplers looked good. I kind of missed where the error happened, if it was on the first or the second round that he missed an extra missile.
Yeah, I too.
Boy, howdy, I was just about to sort of pop off because I thought we had, kill times within a second of each other. And there it is, you see from that final third round pattern mid, Oats just 1 missile short. Both runners taken, I think, just a little bit of frustration. You can see them coming into the room. They both just were stretching out, taking a deep breath. Zeni got the slight better of that exchange. Let's do a quick check on their resources here, Cutie. It looks like the super count is just a little lower for Zeni, and his powerbomb count is going to be very, very low. Oats getting totally hooked up with drops at the end of this Phantoon fight, though.
Yeah, it's this weird thing where sometimes a longer Phantoon fight can end up have you end up with some better resources. Obviously in this situation, the enrage isn't what gave him the better resources, but, for example, a fast, you're usually in a pretty weird spot resources-wise. So they both had some, slower patterns, so their resources are pretty good. The one powerbomb from Zeni is a little annoying, especially if he doesn't get a drop from one of the sizers in Primo here after Gravity Suit. But in a race setting, I'm not usually too worried about this. It is a couple seconds, and obviously in PB attempts that is a lot, but in a race setting, I'm more worried about my super missiles and my health, for sure. Like a couple seconds lost from some power bomb struggles is not the end of the world compared to the potential upside of loss from having a really bad super count or having really bad health here for bowling.
Okay, Zeni did take an extra hit off that atomic in the attic and was not able to recover enough health to be able to afford the extra hit in bowling. Managed to get through with 2 hits. Oats getting some really nice drops, going for the full farm strat there. I really like that, especially in a race setting. Zeni going for the faster deboost strat off the waiver there, so limited to some of his drops. Will be on just 5-8-0 here. 0 is the one we really have to keep our eye on because these crabs, as Cutie pointing out, leading down to the upper Norfair section are going to be sort of the critical determinant here. But still a nice crab touch time, a 3-8. And Oats will be, what, about 15-20 seconds behind, something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. The big thing here is you want 2 ideally, and there's 1 guaranteed that you can get. I know some players will, because it is technically faster to, if you only have 1 power bomb, to not break the tube and actually break the tube coming back after Crade. That's never something I have picked up, just mainly because I don't want to be in a situation where I'm on a PB pace, and it's something that you forget because obviously there's a lot going through your mind when you're on a PB pace, and it's hard to, after a really good run, sometimes you can't even remember like half of it, honestly, like right after. So it can be tricky to remember that. So I usually don't go for it, but I do know Oats is one to do that, and Zeni probably is as well, but I'm not entirely sure. No power bomb here though, so we're probably going to see him farm a B-Tom here in Red Tower, which does lose about 70 to 80 frames, I believe.
Yeah, it's definitely over a second in my calculations. If you can do it quickly, there's actually a nice farm that I saw. I think it was MGA do recently, where rather than go and grab the B-Tom and missile up, you actually leave a bomb just before you unmorph in that little cabinet there, and then you bring the B-Tom over to the bomb. I'd be curious if that's faster, but really neat to see some of those strats emerge in this tournament.
Absolutely. And so Zeni's going to have a choice here. Either use this power bomb to break the tube, or use it to get out of the high jump area. I do know Zeni does like picking up some extra missiles, so it would not surprise me if we saw him go 25 here and just pick up the extras in high jump even. And break the tube
and
here.
save the power bomb that way. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yep, and he's doing a little silly quick morph here. It saves some time. It's also really hard.
Although I think normally when he picks up 25, he does use the power bomb to kill the Sova there, right? So you'd need to do that differently.
Yeah, definitely. But this is how usually a lot of players would do the ammo management here in Zeni's situation. You just break the tube, and then you can use a bomb to kill the Sova on your way up.
Exactly.
Yep. So we'll see here. Oats is in definitely a better resource situation here. That's a nice super from Zeni.
Yeah, nice super hookup for Zeni there. So that puts them even. We'll see whether Oats... I think Zeni also got another one in from this the Sova coming down just before supering over this door. And Oats does as well. So the RNG is sort of obliging for both runners right now.
Yep, and looks like we're going to see him skip that missile.
Yeah.
There's also this you can do to get an extra farm. It's a little bit slower than bombing the guy on the way out, but an extra drop is nothing to sneeze at, especially in a race situation. Having nice missiles here is kind of underrated sometimes. It is nice to have those missiles, so that you end up full after the speed bugs, and in a good spot. I'm a big fan of having extra missiles at this point.
Well, there's not really a place that you can reliably and consistently get missiles in Lower Norfair, right? So it's nice to be able to fill up and be totally full there. It also gives you some options if you get bad super drops. You can start missiling doors without as much stress. Totally agree on that front. Absolutely.
I'm a big believer in trying to get some missiles. So sometimes that farm leaving is also good if your missiles are bad, because if you bomb or power bomb your way out, you take a hit and you're not full for your farms in the business center. So sometimes I'll even do that farm if my missile count is really bad, like I have like 2 missiles, so that I can remain full for the Sovas in the business center to give me some better chances at hooking me up and refilling my missiles.
All right, so far the play honestly has been super clean from both runners. The only real thing separating the two of those, for those of you just tuning in, there was a 1 missile either flame lane or miscount. We actually, Cutie and I both missed here exactly what went wrong. Oats just was one missile short, enraged Phantoon, and that's about 20 seconds. It's almost the entirety of what's separating these two runners as they head towards this sort of final Upper Norfair cleanup and then Lower Norfair.
Yep, absolutely. And the play so far has been, very clean, especially for a race, right? I think people, especially runners, tend to think about this in the context of an RTA attempt, and the gravity time Zeni ended up with is something that he maybe wouldn't be the happiest with in PB attempts, but in a race, anything like that is like his 13:38, I believe it was, is really good, and that's what you kind of want to aim for.
Yeah, Zeni continued to get hooked up with super drops. I had 9 entering Speed Hall here, so shouldn't really be in much trouble. Yeah, and Oats only on 5, opting to missile and just having a little bit of a hiccup, not getting that 5th missile quite out. Let's see what these drops are like. All right, already going for 3 farm, and now is totally full up here. Oats is going to be in a little bit of a tougher situation. Now, doesn't have full health or missiles, so both of those drops will be potential here from those bugs, and still only on 5 supers. So we're going to have to hope that he gets hooked up here so he doesn't fall too far behind. Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. Come on.
Yep. In Oats' situation, so in like a race, if I have a bit of a lead, I would try to go 8 or 9. If I was behind, I would farm to about 7, and that's kind of what I would do in PB attempts. Mm-hmm. As well. I think that like farming 2 7 supers and then supering both doors is pretty good EV, just because an extra farm isn't guaranteeing you an extra super. So that's kind of like a spot that after I've done some math on super drops from the pirates and stuff, mm-hmm. where it's like the sweet spot that I found personally. So it makes sense that he had 7 and had already laid the bomb, so just we'll take these and go no matter what I get.
Right. Although 10-8 is a little rough, and on top of just 10-8 coming out of that bug farm, Cutie, I'm sure you saw this. Zeni picking up the 20th missiles, Oats skipping. So we'll be on bare minimum for Turian. I feel like he was picking up 20 in all of his other races, but maybe in this situation, that's one of the changes that he makes back to that world record route that he was running, only on 15 here against Zeni.
I think that is a good indicator that Oats is possibly watching the restream, or at least keeping tabs on it. Or, maybe he just said, I enraged Phantoon, I'm definitely behind.
Oh boy, that was close on that lava spark. Holy smokes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy.
And now we're in a pretty tight race here.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, this is just 5-6 seconds apart. It might be slightly more than that. Let's see. 21:07 touchdown time for Zeni here in Upper Norfair. Yeah, a little bit more than that, maybe 8 seconds or so. Oats had still needed to menu there on the elevator. Zeni does a little earlier. Interestingly, recently picked that up, so he has the ability to use his wave beam for easier farms of PBs on those multi-violas heading down through Upper Norfair.
Mm-hmm, yeah, and he mapped it out with the way that he likes to farm that room and the strats that he does. That if it's not slower, that's for sure. I definitely maybe lose a little bit of time earlier in Upper Norfair because of how I will farm the mini disc for power bombs to do a slightly different farm in that room to avoid using missiles. But, the unpause early, pausing on the elevator only saves, about 40 frames. So if you're saving missiles that you can use on Ridley, it's pretty valuable.
And just like that, Oats retakes the lead. Zeni having a little issue with that entry into worst room in the game, forced to reset that room. Meanwhile, Oats is going to lose... no, did he get... He got the speed farm. Okay. I wasn't sure if he did or not. But just like that, yeah, Oats going to be just about 3 or 4 seconds ahead here. Just a little bit more than a door transition. Wow. What a big swing there with Zeni forced to reset that worst room in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Worst room in the game is one of those ones that has a lot of... There are a lot of backups runners have found. And every time I try to practice those backups, I'm just like, I would just reload the room.
Especially in a race, gosh, it's so dangerous, right? I mean, if you miss that, it's GG's.
Yeah, the backups are dangerous, and it's it's practice time I could use elsewhere.
Okay, both runners totally hooked up on supers. Oats, you still see the consequence of that 10-8, leaving the speed bug farm only on 12 missiles here. Could have been worse though. So he's in reasonably good shape. Ooh,
Oof.
taking an extra hit there. Oof.
Yeah, that was a little rough.
And 160 is pretty low, especially if you're going for X factors and you're going to be taking intentional damage off some of these. Goodness gracious.
Yeah, absolutely. 12 missiles is fine if you're going to X factor. I think 12 versus 15 really starts to matter if you're doing the beam fight, actually. Just in, a lot of my testing, the hard part with really being able to analyze ammo time saves on Ridley is that there is just so much variance in how the fight goes that you kind of just have to do the fight a bunch in different situations and see what feels good. It's really hard to get good, data on it, because there are some times where having an extra super doesn't even save you time because of how Ridley decides to end the fight, and you just end up with time to get in 2 extra charge shots anyway before he dies. So it's kind of hard to ascertain, but I definitely think 12 is a good spot.
Okay, Zeni did get Ridley into the red space first, but struggled a little bit in the early part of that fight, took a bunch of extra damage. Oats has been very clean. Zeni finally picked up just about 24, 25 on the clock when that explosion death animation started. Oats is going to be about 8 seconds behind that, so the lead is maintained there for Zeni, who will be at 181 health, picking up the tank. I think Oats is just skipping it here based on where he's setting up for these drops here. Oh boy, 163 is really low leaving here, though. Oh boy. I don't know, maybe this is more comfy for you. Anything under 200 in a race gets me really anxious.
In a race, it is a little spooky.
Oh, nice health drop, though, from pre-Ridley farm room here for
Yep,
for
absolutely. He is now cruising. In PB attempts, what I generally look at is if I have 190, I'll even skip the farm leaving, and because that's the health that I need to be able to deboost 3 Musketeers comfortably. But if I'm less than that and I don't have the comfortability to deboost 3 Musketeers, then I will farm usually.
Amazing resources for Oats, though, because the one thing we failed to point out is, despite the bad health drops that Oats got, look at this super count right now. This is an incredible resources shy of the health issues. Oh, and the manip did not quite work the way that Oats wanted, but managed to get away without taking the extra hit, and is now should be cruising, coming through Fire Fleas over 116. He's in much, much better shape now. He took the gamble, he relied on his execution, and now Oats in reasonably good shape, especially with this super count. My goodness, this is incredible from Oats.
Yeah, absolutely. Those manips in the Key Hunter stairs, a lot of them actually end up in a way where if you don't get it exactly the way you want, you still kind of have ways to dodge at the top. And there's that deboost coming from Zeni. It is spooky. I think generally most runners, unless that go for it rather, most runners that go for it, do not do it unless they have at least about 101, because if you mess it up, it's pretty hard to back it up and not take another hit.
Yeah, fortunately with the extra tank, Zeni having a lot more freedom to do that. And they're just in the same room, but now it's Oats that's in front again. We've had, I think the largest lead has been about 25, 26 seconds, maybe slightly more for Zeni with the Enrage. Oats making up a lot of time, clawing his way back, and now actually with the skipped missiles, not getting the Ridley E-Tank, and executing brilliantly on the exit and escape from LN. He's hitting that elevator going back up towards Crade Warehouse, about 6 to 8 seconds ahead. What an incredible race, folks. We are through this. We now have Crade, we have Meridia, we have Turian. Anything can happen, but we are almost dead even. This is unbelievable stuff right now. Holy smokes.
Absolutely. This is a really good race. Exactly the kind of stuff that you want. And this also kind of goes back to where watching the restream can be nice, because as a competitor, if you're not keeping tabs as best as you can, it's really hard to convince yourself that the other player hasn't made mistakes like you have had, right? Oats is enraged Phantoon. His Ridley fight was he went back to farm a little bit before Ridley because the pre-Ridley farm room went pretty bad. It's really easy if you're Oats right now and not keeping tabs, to be like convinced that you're 20, 30 seconds behind.
Right. Okay, both runners opting for these lag reduction strats. Zeni actually does not opt for the iframes reduction there, but brilliant fight. Oats totally hooked up with resources right now, in very, very good shape. Zeni will have better health, not surprising because of the extra tank. Did actually Kojak an extra super, trying to break the super blocks coming off the elevator going into warehouse. So it is in a little bit of a more difficult situation here, super-wise. There's certainly ways around this, but you definitely prefer to be in Oats' situation here, ballistics ammo-wise, for sure.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This is one of those situations where we're hoping for some Zila drops here if we can we can get them.
Yeah, now leaving warehouse. Beautiful. Look at this. 234, 1294. Oats absolutely cooking and has incredible resources. Zeni going to be down to 7 supers after opening this block. Be interesting to see whether he tries to use maybe some missiles on Phantoon to save some supers. Of course, Phantoon drops could just totally clean things up for him here, or really put him in a hole. So we'll have to see what he ends up deciding to do with his resources here.
Yeah, it absolutely would not surprise me to see either of these runners using missiles on Phantoon. It's something it's one of my most boomer SM stubbornness things is I really do not like using missiles on Phantoon. I don't know. It's something I really do not like to have to do. But I would imagine these runners are a little more with the times than I am.
Oh, so that's interesting, Cutie. Is that part of the reason why you've been one of the early adopters of that double X Factor Phantoon then, just to not have to use the extra missiles, or is that sort of a separate, unrelated thing?
It's semi-related, but it was actually that double X Factor. I came up with setups right when D Factor came out. It's just that other than that bottom hole pattern, they're kind of hard.
Zeni Kojaking a super against the wall there. Let's keep an eye on that. Already in rough missile situation. Is he okay? Phantoon is dead. Zeni, I was going to point out, both runners had very nice X Factor setups there. Zeni using, I think, the newer sort of setup there that I think may have been developed by Aziel or one of these other runners, where you're actually irrespective of the it's sort of ambivalent to the entry speed into the room. Unfortunately, because of that issue, Zeni already struggling with supers coming into that fight, Kojacking one, and then having to clean up with a lot of missiles, needing to farm those Zoas, which are extremely stingy on their super drop percentage. And that's going to give Oats just a little bit more of an advantage here. And even Zeni going out of his way to pick up that super, which is unusual for him. I wouldn't necessarily expect that. So he's back on track with the super count that he needs, but it did cost him an extra of 6 or 7 seconds there at least.
Yeah, absolutely. The beginning of that farm was really good. That's the strat that you're looking for. I know a lot of runners tend to spark to kill them, and that makes it a lot easier to pick up the drops, but the spark is like actually a decent bit slower than that angle shot that he did there if you can get out of the sand quickly. So he definitely went for the really fast strat farm there, and unfortunately just had a little bit of trouble getting out of the sand.
Okay, really nice looking setup from both runners based on the belly color. Zeni not getting the ideal pattern, is able to turn around and clean it up though, so despite the ammo issues and all of the other issues that he had, Zeni managing to clean things up nicely. Oats opting to skip farms here. Really just, look at this cutie. I mean, he skipped wave missiles, right? He skipped Ridley tank. He's skipping drops on Dragon. Oats is going absolutely all out, almost as if this is a PB attempt. I mean, completely to the wall in the strats that he's selecting. I think that's probably a testament just to the strength of the caliber of runner that he's up against, and to a certain extent also the race situation. He's just not taking his foot off the gas here.
Absolutely, he's pulling out all the stops. From talking with him, I do know he's a very big hater of having to do spike suit. So it's not necessarily surprising that even if he had a lead in this situation, or if like a really big lead, for example, that he would skip the drops and elect to rather just maybe farm some cack attacks in Red Tower or do an extra bug farm here. But absolutely, I mean, with this count too, he probably isn't really going to do... If he's farming here, it's probably for health.
Yeah, 68's a little sketch. Oh, wow.
Yep.
Triple super drops. Okay, now you're over 100, so you're fine.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, if something goes slightly wrong with that manip where you try to get those 2 Metroids in room 1 to follow you, and one of them grabs you or goes past you and you need to dip back into that acid, 60 is just nowhere near comfortable to feel like you're going to actually survive that room.
Absolutely. The health saving strat in that Metroid Room 1 is definitely something. At this level, you just have to have it in your back pocket, confident enough to pull it out at that health on a PB attempt. But in a race like this, you know, it's a little bit still scary.
Yeah, 0 missiles, pretty unusual in this situation. Oats did use 6 on Phantoon, if I remember correctly. So that's maybe to the point of if you don't get quite, if you're skipping drops on Dragon, you're using a bunch of extra missiles on Phantoon, you could end up in this situation. We'll see whether or not these pirates on the stairs hook him up at all with any missiles whatsoever. He is going to full farm them, though, and gets at least 1 missile drop, which is nice.
Yeah, as a runner who skips the Dragon drops quite a bit, I would imagine Oats, more than most, is at least somewhat comfortable with 0 missiles coming in here. Usually, if you're going 15-10, you use all of them on Dragon, and then if you're skipping drops, those green pirates are really your first shot, like decent shot at getting a missile drop that isn't kind of rare. But it is nice to get it because having to remember your item switching in a high tension situation of the game is not the most fun or comfortable.
Holy smokes. Well, Cutie, we couldn't have really asked for much more. We've had some big swings. Oats was down by somewhere between 25 to 28 seconds. He's got a lead of not quite that amount now, but he's clawed all the way back and now is firmly ahead. It's going to be on the shoulders of him and his execution here, and maybe to a lesser extent RNG and the drops that he gets from those Metroids, but he's definitely in the driver's seat here for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a lead where if he ends up leaving the Metroids with 9, he still is ahead. Not comfortably ahead, but ahead. I believe if you do the refill and stuff optimally, 15 and 9 is only about 13 seconds lost if you don't end up full.
I like seeing that. He sees that super show up at the last minute, immediately turns around. That tells me that he's definitely aware of the race situation. I think if you're behind there, maybe you just keep going, but Oats making sure that he does not lose that super. Using missiles very nicely on that grouping strat in 3, and is in really good shape here for room 4, given his resources.
Yep, absolutely. I bet she's just gonna missile here. Yep.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Missiling on 9 it's a high EV play. Because I believe if you super on 9, you're like 89% to end up with 10 or something, 89.5% to end up with 10, and if you missile, it's like 98.5. It's like a 10% jump to use those missiles there. So it's a pretty high EV play in my opinion, even on PB attempts. If you have some room to spare and you're going 15-10, to just missile those on 9.
All right, here's that single bomb setup, baby skip. We're getting. Wow, really nicely done. Excellently executed from Oats. He's through cleanly. Zeni, the one who did not have the ammo problems necessarily coming into Turian, but having struggles in 1, 2, and 3 in execution, and then ended up being in kind of a difficult situation himself in 4. Got hooked up, did only have 79 health, 379 leaving. So he's going to be a little bit lower on health if he gets through this. Is going for the 3 jump. Gosh, it's going to be really close. Is he through? He is through. Wow, and that's gotta be a race situation gamble there, knowing that he's behind for sure, right?
Yeah, I don't think you go for that if you think you're ahead.
Holy smokes!
Yep, absolutely, and no turret snipes for Oats, so he is through. That's the last scary part of the 15 missiles. There is if the turret snipes you once, it is game over. You have no recourse. Zeni, something to watch out for is his health situation is definitely worse. These runners are used to having low health for this fight, but even the best runners in a situation like this can end up making some sort of mistake and eating 4 onion rings.
All right, just a little over 20 seconds separating this runner. As I mentioned before, folks, this is on the shoulders of Oats, the number 2 seed overall, the world record holder. clawed back from an enraged Phantoon, down nearly 30 seconds in this race, has turned it around by almost a full minute. It is up by about 22 seconds now. Just needs to execute on this Mother Brain 2 fight to be through cleanly and into the upper bracket finals.
I'd just like to point out there's a really nice dodge by Oats there. Mother Brain laid a bomb that you want to jump over the explosion on, but her head indicated she was going to fire a French fry. So he was able to do a small hop and land in the middle of the bomb radius, so he took 0 damage. It was a very nice dodge, and very well aware of the situation that jumping up into that French fry is a lot worse than trying to get hit by the center of the bomb there.
I think that's it. I think he's through. Wow, what a performance from Oats. I mean, time and time again in this tournament, either on matches that I've called or that I've been watching. Oh, Zeni!
It looks like he fell on the bomb a little bit before it exploded.
Yeah,
and took 30.
He was lined up. Yeah, it looked like he was lined up for that 0 health, as you were just pointing out before, that center point of the bomb explosion, and instead was a little early and took that damage.
Yep. Because the explosion does 20, and I believe the bomb itself does 30, because I think he was at 329.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like he landed just a little bit early before the explosion came out, and the bomb ended up dealing that extra 10 damage. If he was just a little bit later, even if he didn't hit that center where it does 0 damage, he would have been safe, because that only deals 20, if I recall correctly. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm a little rusty, but I believe that's what happened.
No, I think you're right. Boy, that's it is unfortunate. You want to see both runners finish. If there's any consolation here for Zeni, that was a race that Oats had pretty much just secured up about 20 seconds at the end of that Mother Brain 2 fight and was through cleanly. Wow, what an incredible comeback from Oats. A shame that Zeni wasn't able to finish it up, but an incredible race overall. I mean, we were dead even at Moat. Both runners got across more or less cleanly. We had Oats with the drama of the Phantoon and Rage falling behind big early and clawing all the way back to a victory here and securing himself a place in the upper bracket finals against number 4 seed Ruya. Wow, what an incredible race, Cutie. This was just about everything we could have asked for.
Yeah, absolutely, and this really speaks to Oats' level of consistency. I think an underrated aspect of consistency is your ability to just forget about the situation and focus on what you're doing in this moment instead of worrying about the fact that, I enraged Phantoon, this run is really bad. I think when runs are going well, it's a lot easier to play with consistency than when they're going bad. Because it's really easy to lose focus and lose that consistency, and I think that's just a testament to Oats' mettle and his ability to execute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what I was pointing that out just before the unfortunate bomb hit from Zeni that caused the death. But everything that I've seen from Oats in this tournament has spoken to an incredible level of not only consistency but confidence. The ability to go for all of the different strats that he's going for, the backups that he has, in his pocket, ready to go at a moment's notice. Enraging Phantoon, pretty much not blinking at it, and then doing all the things that he did in order to secure this victory, with going 15-10, with skipping the Ridley tank on low health. Everything that he did just spoke to a person who's firing on all cylinders and a deserved recipient of that top spot right now in the winners finals.
Yeah, absolutely, and this looking like it might be a 41, but let's not forget Zeni. I think his performance was also, very indicative of a runner who has actually also quite a bit of consistency. There were some hiccups in there, and they didn't spiral, right? Like having to reload worst room in the game can so easily, because now you have to go redo worst room in the game, and it's in your head that you had to reload it, and you're throwing away your lead. You just failed Lava Spark, right? He's able to get through worst room in the game, have a nice Ridley fight, and recover very nicely. And even, with the bad drops from Kraid there, kind of putting his ammo in a bad situation and stuff like that, it never really spiraled to where he was out of the race. And I think that is a testament to his consistency and ability as well. Because another, thing about consistency is, do you make one mistake or do you make 3, right? And once you make 3, it's really easy to make 4. And he never really let it spiral, even, small hiccups here and then some bad luck, but it didn't spiral into anything catastrophic that took him out of the race. And I think it was a really good showing from both runners, and I think they both played quite well.
And there we are. We are joined by the runner-up in today's race, still alive in this tournament. Zeni, congrats on an excellent run. I'm sorry that it didn't quite end in the manner that you were certainly hoping for, but it was a really, really hype race. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's okay. It's it's any percent, right? Like, things happen. Obviously I'm disappointed, but it's all good.
Yeah, I mean, it was an incredibly hype race from our standpoint here as spectators and commentators. You guys were dead even. I'm sure you were following it, dead even going into Moat, and then with the Enrage, Oats fell behind, and you had a commanding lead that you were holding on to for the majority of the time through most of the run today. It just sort of went a little bit south, and Oats was able to clean up. But to his credit, I'm sure you saw this. He went 15-10. He skipped, and there he is joining now with the winner of the race is Oats. Oats, congratulations on the win today, and GG's.
I accidentally went into the French restream real fast. I'm still a little bit out of it, but they swiftly kicked me out. But yeah, good race. It was a little bit of struggles early game. I felt like I was Phantoon definitely was a struggle. I forgot that I guess I missed a missile. I don't even know where it missed. It might have been at the start, so I miscounted one and then enraged. But
oh no, I didn't see that.
Yeah,
that's rough.
My kill time was like 11:35 or something.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, we weren't quite able to figure it out ourselves. Maybe one of those early flames grabbed one of those missiles. But it was really interesting. So, Oats, what I'm curious about is whether or not the Enrage affected any of your decisions. You went full bore in this race. You went 15-10. You skipped the Ridley tank on bad health drops from Ridley. You pretty much went all out. You skipped drops on Dragon. This was an incredible performance. Your foot was to the gas the entire time, and you came out on top in this really, really close race. I'm just curious to know whether the Enrage affected anything, whether watching the restream affected anything, whether the opponent affected anything. I'd be really curious to get your feedback on that.
Yeah, I know Zeni's consistent and has been playing a lot recently. So at that point with the Enrage, I know that he's ahead by a decent amount. I do have the restream open, but even without that, I know I'm behind significantly. So I essentially just feel like I need to make up time anywhere I can, because I'm playing with the assumption that Zeni is going to play very consistently from there on out. Even if there's like a couple missed tricks here and there, I assume he's not going to miss anything major, so I needed to make up time anywhere I could. So basically, yeah, 15-10, kind of taking some risky strats. I was pretty afraid going into Ridley because I turned around hoping for a couple more healths, because I started, shambling in the pre-Ridley farm pretty hard. But yeah, other than that, everything went fairly well, and I was happy with how I played overall.
Yeah, that was the pre-Ridley on both ends was kind of an interesting dichotomy for this race for you. It looked like you were struggling a little bit. You went back for those health drops. You only got the one, but you had a really, really clean fight. And then exiting, I think you were also at the same health that you entered, which is about 163. And Cutie and I are sitting in here like, boy, this is a little uncomfortable if things go at all sideways. And you got pretty hooked up with health drops. I think you got something like you were over 200 leaving the pre-Ridley farm room on the way out. So I think that was probably a bit of a sigh of relief. Is that fair to say, the extra health leaving there?
Yeah, so what I was going to do is, if I didn't get at least 1 or 2 health drops, I can't remember the exact threshold for taking, like there's a certain amount of HP to where you can give yourself a few extra hits. But I wanted to be over 200 and or around that range, and I luckily got some health, so I was fine. I was going to farm the pirate on the way out, but yeah, luckily I got a couple health drops. I had good super missiles. Yeah, overall it was fairly solid leaving.
Yeah, I mean, and excellently executed. After that Enrage, I mean, the caliber of play that you put out from the end of Wrecked Ship on, from Gravity on, was just was incredible, and it shows here in the final time, despite your kill time, as you pointed out. Zeni, on the other hand, you had a really strong start to this race. You had a great kill time. Things were going really smoothly for you. They sort of broke down a little bit towards the back half. I'd be curious to get sort of your feedback on what you were doing throughout the race, and how things adjusted, if at all, against Oats in this incredible matchup.
Sure, yeah. I was really happy with my bombs time. Got a 4:38. I think that's the first time that's ever happened to me in a race. And then I kind of I flubbed Terminator a little bit, and I was like, oh man, like there goes my groove, right? But like it's okay. Phantoon was rough. My thumb couldn't stutter properly, so that ended up being a 3-round. And I actually did check Oats' pace right then, and it looked like he was about to finish the fight. And so I was like, okay, this is going to be close. I did not see that he enraged, so I was kind of surprised at the lead that I had when I checked again a few minutes later. But yeah, I felt pretty good about my run overall until Lower Norfair, and then it sort of went off the rails. So I charged too early entering Lava Dive, so I missed the Shine Spark, so I had to do a gravity jump. And then I had to reset worst room in the game because of reasons. And then the beginning of my Ridley fight was really, really rough. Thankfully, I was able to kind of clean that up. I still got a fairly decent kill time. And again, I checked Oats' pace at that point and saw that he was still fighting Ridley and decided to just commit to the tank. Looking back, I'm not sure if that was the right call or not, but that's what I did. So, I'll stand by that. Lower Norfair escape was generally pretty okay from what I recall. But then basically my whole mid game, I was either making mistakes or I was getting punished by not quite good enough RNG, it seemed like. So for example, I didn't leave Kraid with as many supers as I would like. I had just barely enough, but I knew that if I didn't missile Botwoon, I was going to end up having no supers after Botwoon, and he can be kind of a jerk with super drops. So I entered the Botwoon fight planning on doing missiles, and then I Kojacked one of my supers, so then I had to do missiles.
Yeah, we saw that.
And that fell apart. Thankfully, I mean, it cleaned up pretty fast, but it was rough. I was hoping to be able to skip the tank if I had enough energy, but at that point I didn't have enough anything, and so I opted to skip the bugs, or skip the tank and farm the bugs instead, and that sort of fell apart as well. Dragon, I don't remember the Dragon fight at all. So
it went fine. You got the slow pattern.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. And,
Yeah.
Right. And I had to use a super because I missed one of the earlier missiles. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it felt like the two major inflection points for you, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, were probably the worst room in the game reset, and then the Botwoon ripple effect was pretty substantial, right?
Yeah.
And how that impacted your need to not skip the tank, to go for Zoas, which were really stingy on supers, and those felt like the two that really had the most major impact. Otherwise, you can always nitpick, but I think generally it was an incredible race. You guys were really close. You were trading leads back and forth. I think for anyone that wants to watch high-level speedrunning in an any percent race, you can't ask for almost anything better than this, except, it coming down to the escape. This was really close all the way through. The execution was really through the roof at a lot of points. It was a back and forth affair. Each of you had a lead of, 20 plus seconds at one point. It traded a few times. It was really an excellent showcase. And fortunately, you're both still alive, which is the exciting part. We got four folks down in the redemption bracket. Zeni, you're going to be going up against Lynx. Another 41 runner, Zoast, is going to be in there against Jaruski, who's been pushing some great times. And one of those four individuals is going to have the opportunity to come back up top and either face Ruya or Oats, who are now facing each other in the top bracket finals. Oats, just sort of final question here. Any thoughts on that race with Ruya? I'm assuming it'll probably be a similar sort of psychological approach to racing Zeni, right? Just another top tier runner who's pushing for a 40 right now.
Yeah, I guess I just need to kind of lean on my race experience now at this point over the years. Racing is kind of a different ball game. You could have a really good PB, but it can not really showcase itself in your race setting. So I know Ruya is playing incredibly well, and I'm gonna definitely need to put in some more D-Rust here before I face him, because that should be a good match, and hopefully it's an entertaining one as well.
What are you saying about me, man?
Oh yeah, I just needed a
grinding
little
map
D-Rust.
rando for the. What is this? You got a
No,
D-Rust
no.
for Ruya, but man, Zeni's not a threat, man.
No, the thing is, if I would have lost against you, it is what it is. You know, like, you're really good. You've been putting out insane times. You should have had a sub 41 numerous times by now, and you know, that's it. It's tough. You and Ruya are both really tough opponents, and you're definitely going to have a tough opponent if you do manage to get through links. That's going to be a really fun match.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think all of the matchups from here are going to be really hype. So
yeah, for sure. I'm
Yep.
definitely excited to see how it pans out.
Absolutely, and I was a big fan of what you said about how racing is different than a PB, because it's really easy to play consistently when everything's going right. Excuse me. When everything's going well, playing consistently is much easier than when everything's going wrong and trying to get back on track. So racing is definitely very different, and I'm just glad we got to see a pretty good one today.
Yeah. Well, thank you both for commentating, and hopefully it was entertaining. And yeah, thanks.
Yeah, GG Oats.
Thank you. Good job, Zeni.
Thanks.
All right, folks. Well, with that, we are at the end of this incredible race. We wanted to thank everyone over at Speedgaming for helping set this up on the restream. Obviously, Zeni, to you, Sassy, and QZ for putting this on. It's been an incredible tournament. It's not over yet, though, folks. We've got a bunch of hype matchups. Nothing on the schedule now, but please keep your eyes peeled. Zeni versus Lynx, Zosti versus Drewski, and Ruya versus Oats. We've got 6, 40, and 41 runners left in this tournament. It's going to be winner take all at this point. We got some hype races, so keep your eyes peeled. Zeni, anything else as a tournament organizer that you'd like to point out before we sign off the air here?
Just the usual. Thank you to Speedgaming for hosting our tournament. Thank you to the comms. You guys are awesome. And yeah, thank you to everybody who's been